9 years in the NFL, very proud, of course, of his University of Kentucky, the Huskies, crushing it. He's a fan of all teams coming out of South Florida, the Dolphins, the Houston
University
Panthers.
of who?
And we're going to see how much he what?
University of who?
What? I don't know what I said. It says University of Kentucky. Connecticut. What did I say? Kentucky?
Connecticut. Come on, Kay. Come on.
What did I say?
You said Kentucky.
I said Kentucky.
Okay,
it says Connecticut. I don't know why I did that.
They just lost to Oakland. Don't disrespect our
I saw
like
that.
Okay. All right.
I saw that, and I think we had that
thank
in
you
our
for the introduction.
Yeah. You're the best. I'm sorry I said that. It literally said Connecticut. I don't know why that came out of my mouth, but I think I was thinking more about, while I was reading that, I was thinking, what is the baseball team in Miami? And it's the Marlins, and I was trying to figure out what it was while I was reading.
It's opening day. I know it's opening day. We got the draft coming up. You know, we got a lot of stuff going on. Still a little early over there on your coast. You know, I give you a couple excuses.
Man-to-Man podcast. Darius Butler is here. It is opening day for Major League Baseball. Your Marlins, they're hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're favored -1.5, money line -120. Any thoughts on this? Are you a baseball guy? I don't even know.
No, you know, I grew up a Marlins fan, obviously. We won a World Series when I was kind of young with Sheffield in those heydays. But crazy enough, this year we're seeking our first back-to-back postseason appearances. So, yes, I am a Miami Marlins fan. Used to be Florida Marlins, obviously. But, yeah, big fan. We got Jazz Chisholm, who's dynamic. We just need him to stay healthy. He's banged up, too much. But I'm excited for opening day. I like baseball. I get into it more during the postseason, just like pretty much every other sport outside of football. There's too many damn games.
I think they'll win. The season total, I'm looking at FanDuel Sportsbook right now, 77.5 over-under for the Marlins.
I'm going over. I think we won 82, 83, something in that ballpark last year. So I'm going over. I think we'll get better once again. Got to keep our guys healthy. But, give me the over. 77, what's that, like 500? Under 500, maybe? Who knows? It's baseball. Yeah,
I love that you're asking me. I have
give
no
me
idea.
Over.
A little over, I think.
I know. It's baseball.
A little below 500. That's what Goldfarb is telling me in my ear. My producers tracked this down. You know, you're from Florida. I'm from Chicago.
Yep.
And if you were at the White Sox game on the South Side today, you would be able to attempt to take down this bad boy. They're calling it the Campfire Milkshake. I like it. Chocolate milkshake topped with graham crackers, toasted marshmallows, and pieces of Hershey's chocolate. I feel like you would never ever eat this or drink this, literally ever.
I definitely would. I have a huge sweet tooth, and for most people, that may be diarrhea, maybe coming out of the mouth, coming out of the back, doing a lot of different things. But I have a stomach of kind of like a German tank, so I can take that down. It'll probably take me a good 15, 20 minutes. But yeah, got a big sweet tooth, Kay. I would definitely attack that bad boy. You're a White Sox fan or Cubs fan?
I'm a Cubs fan, I think. You know, I went to school downtown, and I many a times would like cut class 6th, 7th, and 8th period, take the blue line to the red line, get off at Addison, grab bleacher seats, and sit and go to day games at Wrigley. It was it was like better than college, better than anything then I went to Mizzou and there were cornfields and frat parties, and I was like, I could be at Wrigley, watching Harry Carey do his thing. Like, what's the deal? So yeah, no, I was a big Cubs fan growing up, of course. But then I worked for the St. Louis Cardinals, and I got a World Series ring with them. So then Chicago fans, per usual, hold that against me. Are you okay? Let's get into this. We've got opening day, guys. And you guys can, by the way, go over to FanDuel Sportsbook and have the time of your life. Like, there's so many fun things to bet on. Build yourself a parlay. They've got lots of great deals. They also have March Madness continuing in the tourney tonight. Darius, how is your bracket?
First five, first of all. When you bet in baseball, bet those first five. But for this parlay, are we getting to the parlay right now?
Sure, let's do it. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about your parlay, your bracket, because nobody cares about anybody's bracket. I've said that a million times. But who you got in the leg of our parlay? Because we almost pulled off a 4-legger last week.
That close. But this one, obviously going my UConn guys to continue to be dominant on the defensive end. So keeping the San Diego State Aztecs under 62.5 points. That's my first leg of the parlay, Sweet 16. I'm excited about this one. My bracket's dead, but I am excited about this parlay. So under 62.5, San Diego State.
I picked San Diego State to win the whole thing, I think. So that's probably going to happen because I completely messed everything up. Yes, UConn, not Kentucky. Guys, he picked UConn, not Kentucky. San Diego State under 62.5. I'm going to go North Carolina over Alabama. Okay? I don't know if you think about this. North Carolina's won 10 of 11. They're rolling teams, it looks like, in the tournament so far. Like, they're all over my timeline, which is crazy. And I love Michigan State and Izzo, and they're always a tough out. And they got bounced last weekend. So I think they take care of Bama. And R.J. Davis, talk about him.
Hey, okay. Walking bucket. A lot of buckets. A lot of excitement. Illinois got a nice guard out there putting up a bunch of points, too. But I like that leg. I like it straight up, too. Money lines. Don't have to deal with the spread.
Yeah.
But for my second leg, I will deal with the spread. I'm going to have UConn in the second half cover a 5.5-point spread once again against your future champion, San Diego State, once again. So I'm standing that UConn game with both of my legs. Under 62.5 for the first one, and now this second one covering that 5.5-point spread in the second half.
I'm keeping it simple again. Arizona over Clemson is the final. Like, if you guys want to get in on this, go to FanDuel Sportsbook, knock yourselves out. Arizona goes 20-7 against major conference opponents this year. Clemson, Clemson has a nice little run. I think it ends tonight. Caleb Love and company, it is over. So to review, Darius is going with San Diego State under 62.5 team total, and UConn covering by 5.5 points in the second half. I'm going to take the North Carolina money line over Alabama, and the final leg of the parlay, I'm taking Arizona to beat Clemson, guys. So if you want to get in on that, there's a profit boost every game of the tournament, every day, right? So that means every round, every day there's a game. You can boost your winnings. Thank you, FanDuel. They have a 30% profit boost for any placed college basketball bet. You can boost the parlay today. You can do the one that we just did. We were so close last week. We want to make it up to you guys. So download the app, start making big moments with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I want to talk, before we get to the NFL, if we're going to talk NCAA hoops, we got to talk about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, what a star, what a badass, what a stud. $5 million offer from Ice Cube, right, for the big three. What did you make of this? What would you do if you were her?
I mean, look, you got to consider it. $5 million, I know that probably won't move Kay, but it moves a lot of other people. That moves a lot of people to at least consider when you put that number in front of them. So Caitlin Clark, that would be crazy. I'm pretty sure she'd be the first woman to play in that league. Surprised this is the first time Ice Cube is offering this deal to someone. You had Asia Wilson come out. I don't know where Maya Moore was, Bree Stewart, a lot of UConn greats that probably could have, banged and hung around that big three. But Caitlin Clark is box office absolute superstar. I think only 10 games she would have to play, like 8 regular season, 2 postseason games. So great move by Ice Cube, publicity-wise, marketing-wise with the league. And then if Caitlin Clark actually plays, I'm sure a lot of people will tune in to see it. So you got to at least consider it once that number is put out there. You got to at least consider it.
I mean, it's only 8 games plus those 2. It's once a week. That's a nice little thing to leak and to make public too, which I love her to put out there for her, which we're so happy for. And Caitlin and Iowa play Colorado, if anybody wants to know, on Saturday. So take a look at that. Okay, so we're in the middle of pro days, right? We're watching pro days usually go off without a hook. It's like scripted out routes and all of that. Yesterday we had LSU Pro Day for Jaden Daniels, full display, right? Then we got to see, which I loved, Malik Neighbors. He's projected to go in the top 10. The Chargers lose Keenan Allen. They lose Mike Williams. Here's the current receivers. I want you to take a look at this, Darius, on the roster, right? And listen, Quentin Johnston, that's a tall drink of water. I love him. Big catch radius, wins the contested situations. I love all of it. But who is the #1 guy? Who do they bring in the draft at number 5 overall?
With that lineup right there, Josh Palmer would clearly, in my opinion, clearly be the #1. You just drafted Johnston in the first round last year. You would definitely want him to elevate and be that #1 at some point. But you got to go wide receiver here. Maybe Marvin Harrison's even there if the first 4 picks are quarterbacks. Malik Neighbors, I honestly would be good with both of them. Both of these guys are wide receiver ones. They're dynamic #1 threats the first day they enter the NFL. Now, if I wasn't on the field and didn't witness with my own 2 eyes Marvin Harrison Jr. absolutely dominating the Georgia Bulldogs in that Peach Bowl a couple of years ago, I would say Malik Neighbors will be the wide receiver 1 in this class. But I saw with my own 2 eyes, if Harrison stays healthy that year with C.J. Stroud, they win the national championship, in my opinion. So Marvin Harrison Jr., if he's there at 5, you got to go and take him hardball. You have to give Herbert that weapon.
I think he will be there at 5. So let's say he gets Marvin Harrison Jr., bell of the ball. made man, going to have an impact on any team. If you're Justin Herbert, are you good? Are you excited? Like, you have Greg Roman, who can do something. He can make, he could show a new side of himself, but that's a running guy. That's a guy who gets the best out of, I think, who did they bring in? They brought in J.K. Dobbins for a visit. No Eckler. Like, are you concerned? How concerned are you if you're Justin Herbert?
I would be very concerned. Justin Herbert doesn't give off the vibe that he's concerned about much. He just feels like he's going to be out there, one of the guys, go out there and do his job. We saw Roman and Harbaugh have success in San Francisco, getting all the way to a Super Bowl. And I'm sure Roman will evolve. This isn't a type of, option type, run first quarterback. You want Herbert dropping back. I do, at least, throwing it 35, 40 times. But Harbaugh, he's going to do what's best for his team to win each football game, just like he did in college. With J.J. McCarthy, who's climbing up a bunch of boards as well, there were games where he didn't throw the ball a bunch in the second half when Harbaugh didn't feel like that was the best thing to do. So they do have a good offensive line if they can stay healthy. But in this league, you need weapons, especially being in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, the big bad wolf up there. Herbert needs some weapons, so you got to go out there and get them wherever and however you can. And once again, the guys on that roster, you got to develop. You got to get the best out of Johnston, and then you got to hit the top of his draft. It's a deep wide receiver class, so you got to get out and hit a few of them. And shoot, you got Harbaugh, great college coach for the last however many years, so he's had his eyes on these guys since they were in high school. So he should have the best draft of any of the programs, any of the organizations this season.
Do you believe him? Harbaugh, who great college coach, great NFL coach, kind of a bit of a wild card. We'll see. He comes in and he says, you're saying he played, he knows these college players, these draft prospects better than anybody. He came and he said that his dude, his former Michigan quarterback, he's the best quarterback in the draft. J.J. McCarthy, the best. A lot of hype around McCarthy. Awesome pro day, knocks it out the park, kind of like everybody does. Here are the odds for which team will draft his services, the former Michigan man. From this list, is there a team that you'd put your money on?
I mean, there's been a lot of rumblings about Minnesota, and obviously they're the overwhelming favorites. We know Minnesota, we know Denver, we know, in my mind, top of my mind, Raiders. Those three will be the top three. I know the Raiders have the longest odds, but those three will be the top three. And I once again, another quarterback that I had the opportunity to watch play in person, boots on the ground, his last two collegiate games. And to Harbaugh's point, he is a winner. I think 27-1. That's not by accident. Jackson on big-time college football, so that is definitely a big check mark. He played multiple sports, the big-time hockey guy in high school, leader of men. So all those things matter. It matters so much what situation these quarterbacks come into. So if he does come into a situation like the Minnesota Vikings with the weapons that they have around him, I do think there'll be a 11-12 win type team pretty early on with KOC calling the shot. So I would like to see him in Minnesota. I know they got Darnold there for the time being, but I would like to see JJ McCarthy there in Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes before Drake May. I love Drake May, but I think JJ is a little more polished. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes third quarterback off the board. I still see Jaden and Caleb Williams being the lot at 1 and 2.
We are hearing, Tom Pelissero, who I trust, is reporting that people who are familiar with Adam Peters, who's calling the shots for the Commanders, say that they very much like JJ at 2.
Hey, Tom, I know you know Tom P. He's done great work. He's always done great work. He's tapped in. He's locked in. So, I'm definitely not calling BS on what he's saying. But I would be shocked if the Commanders made that move for sure. But always this time of year, it's always somebody who flies up the board. It was Zach Wilson a few years ago. It was Mac Jones potentially going number 3 overall. It was Aaron Rodgers probably getting traded to the Broncos on draft day. So it's always something like this leading up to it. We know the NFL. We gotta keep the headlines. But I'd be shocked if they pass up on Daniels at that spot.
Yeah, it'll be super, super interesting. We're not going to talk about Caleb Williams for a while. I'm going to let all that settle, and Chicago needs to figure out a way to embrace him with big arms. So we'll see how all that. I don't want to get into it. I'm not, because every time I do, it doesn't go the way I want it to go. What?
This is all part of the process, Kay. It's all part of it. You've been in these locker rooms. You've been around it. You've been around the league, these owners, and it'll be interesting. But what matters the most is how you play football. How you play football, how you can lead those guys, how you practice, how you prepare, how much of a professional you are, who you are, what you do, all those other things. That's a part of it. But look, it's 2024. You know, do what you do and go out there and ball and take care of your job.
One more before we go. Last weekend, you were following the NCAA tournament. Now you're talking to me about the Miami Marlins and their guys. F1 Australian Grand Prix happened, though. Verstappen, I noticed, did not win. My boy, Carlos Sainz, who I love, he won. Give me the state of F1 racing in 20 seconds, then we're going to take a break.
I mean, it's awesome when Max is not in there, and I hate for him to get the do not finish and, you know, whatever record or 4 or 5 record he had going on, he didn't finish. But it was exciting once he was done after lap 3. And Carlos Sainz, honestly, in my opinion, he's the second best driver on the grid, and he right now doesn't have a seat on the team next year. So that'll be interesting to see where he actually ends up when Lewis Hamilton takes his seat at Ferrari. But he is driver number 1 in Ferrari right now, and I think he's the second best driver after Max on the entire grid right now, if you ask me.
Darius Butler does it all. Happy Easter to you and your gorgeous family. We love you. We'll talk to you next week probably. Thanks, Darius. And good luck with our parlay. Go play our parlay.